Today I did something I normally don't do. Today I went through the Dow 30 companies, I loaded up here on CNBC and I loaded up the Dow 30. And I looked through the list and I saw many great names like Apple and Boeing and Microsoft and Nike, 3M, McDonald's, Visa, Walmart, all different types of wonderful companies that are on this list that you would consider some of the most impactful, some of the best high tier, high quality companies in the United States. And I was looking through the list and I started to do research what companies have been added, what companies have been removed over the last couple of decades. And I was going through the list and I found it really interesting. And then I looked through today's list and I noticed something really weird. Amazon is not on the list. And as someone who is a big investor in Amazon, it is my second largest position, I find it interesting that this company wasn't added. And so I started to do research why it had not been added. So we're going to go over in this video, will this stock be added to the Dow 30 industrial average? Is it very important for the stock? Is this another bullish catalyst? Or is it something that kind of be brushed to the side? What prevented it from being added before? And will it be added in 2022 or 2023? We're going to go over all that and more in this video, so stay tuned. If you haven't checked me out before, my name is Jordan, the Millennial Investor, and I update my growth and dividend growth portfolios in the description down below, so check out all that stuff, including Yada savings accounts, credit card referrals, and then of course that $10 referral for getting signed up with One Finance, which 125 people have signed up for so far. So thank you guys for tuning in, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Amazon. And PS, I forgot to show, I always show at the beginning of the video my total balance. As of right now, we have about 42,000 invested, and then my performance since joining this new brokerage. This is my performance so far. So if you want to take a look at that, take a look at that. Now, let's talk about what the Dow Industrial 30 is, and then talk about what it takes to get a stock in it. Here it says, unlike the S&P 500, which has a long list of eligibility requirements that some big companies can't meet, the Dow doesn't really have many rules in terms of how a stock gains entry to the index. It's considered for the Dow a must be a non-transportation or non-utility company in the S&P 500. The Dow, which dates back to the 19th century, is, quote, not governed by quantitative rules. S&P Global, which runs the both Dow and S&P 500, describes. The methodology is far more vague. Quote, a stock is typically added only if the company has an excellent reputation, demonstrates sustained growth, and is of interest to a large number of investors. And it keeps going. It says, so who decides how the company gets on? It says, with far fewer rules in the S&P 500 and a qualitative approach, how does a company actually get added? In lieu of a checklist type approach, companies are literally at the mercy of a bunch of people who decide whether a company's inclusions actually make sense. On the Dow's committee, there are 2 representatives from Wall Street Journal and 3 from S&P Global. Together, they decide after evaluating the prices and corporate actions and comparing the index to the broad market. For the Dow, share price matters because it's how the index is weighted. That's why Apple's position in the Dow dropped 3% after its 4-to-1 stock split, and even though its market capitalization didn't budge. Often the committee will consider and evaluate other candidates, but this information stays confidential as getting into the Dow can be a huge boon for a company's stock price, and getting kicked out is considered a blow. 2 things I want to go over again. It talked about Apple with its stock split dropping in the index, and then it talked about getting into the Dow can be a huge boon for a company's stock price. And that's what I wanted to talk about. I came across this article by Kiplinger, which says, quote, Amazon stock split puts it in play to join the Dow. Amazon.com's 4-digit price tag is coming down as the e-tailer preps for a 20-to-1 Amazon stock split effective in June. So this was written a couple months ago in May of this year, so about 4 months ago. If we scroll down here, it says that the Amazon stock split, which just received the blessing of majority of Amazon shareholders Wednesday night, will be the 4th of the company's history, and it follows on the heels of Google parent Alphabet's 20-for-1 stock split as well. And just with Google's move, Amazon stock split could open the door for its inclusion in the elite Dow Jones Industrial Average one day. In the next part, it also says, Amazon to the Dow. But perhaps the most interesting perceived benefit of the split is that Amazon could be tapped for the 30-stock Dow Jones Industrial Average one day. That's because the blue chip barometer isn't built like the other 2 major indexes. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ Composite determine their weights by market capitalization, but the Dow, created back in 1896, is weighted by a company's stock price. So Amazon stock, in case you didn't know, went through a split back in June. And this is the company right here. This is their stock price. Now this company has has wonderful fundamentals. It has great numbers, has great metrics, and it's one of my largest investments for a good reason. Now, why is this beneficial? When the company split its stock price in around May or June or so this year, it had a multi-thousand-dollar price tag. I believe it was around $3,000 or so before the split, because it was a 20-for-1 split. So yeah, it was about $3,200 or so before the split. Today, it's at about $133. That is a massive downturn. So the company's share price went down dramatically while the market cap stayed the exact same at a whopping 1.28 trillion. Now if we hop back over here to M1 Finance and we go to the research tab and we go to stocks and we look at market cap weighted, there's only two that are ahead of Amazon, which is Apple and Microsoft, and then Amazon at its $1.4 trillion share price, or market capitalization, I should say. Now, if you look at Apple and Microsoft, they're already in the Dow 30. They're already in this list. Here's Apple, and then Microsoft is down below it. Now, the metrics, like we talked about, of how it gets in is not by a certain number or certain quantified number. It's more of a qualitative decision where these people that are on the board that make the decision say, is this company important? Well, this leads me to the question of, is Amazon stock important to the economy? Well, let's give an example of Apple and Microsoft, because these are the two largest companies in the world. So Apple, if we pull up its annual revenue last year, was $365 billion. Okay, now let's pull up Microsoft. Microsoft had revenue of 198. So Microsoft had about 200 billion. Apple had 300 billion and change. And how much did Amazon have in annual revenue? Well, it had $469 billion. So it is almost at $500 billion in revenue. And based on the growth that they're having this year, they're already hitting record after record number. And based on this track that they're going on, they're going to hit that $1 trillion mark if they continue this level. So to consider that Amazon is doing $500 billion in revenue, there's only one company that is beating it out in top line revenue, which is Walmart. I asked the question, what is this company waiting on? I think the only thing that was holding up was the share price, and this leads me to the last part. What will it do actually getting this added to the Dow 30? What makes this a good thing for the company? Well, if you see here, this is just one example of the many. This is one of the most popular one that I found, which is ticker symbol DIA, which is an ETF which tracks, you guessed it, the Dow 30. The net assets of this portfolio, of this ETF, is $28.46 billion. Now, getting Amazon added into the Dow would easily add about $1 billion or so worth of capital into the company. Now, this is just one example of $1 billion that would have to be added to Amazon stock if it was added to this index. There are many different ETFs and similar ETFs like it that compose of the Dow 30 or something similar with a different variation. Think about the billions of dollars of inflow, and that's why you typically see something like this where it says that getting into the Dow can be a huge boon for a company's stock price. So overall, it doesn't make a huge difference. Amazon is a company that I love, one that I'm invested in. No matter what happens, it doesn't really matter to me whether it gets added to the Dow or not, but this is just one more extra bullish catalyst why I think that this company is poised for excellent returns and awesome growth in the future. And I think that this is just one more tiny bullish thing for its share price, which has hit a big downturn in the last several years. And this will help get it back to that all-time high of around $200 a share. So thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out all the stuff down below in the description. Get signed up with M1 Finance for $10 free, and you'd help support the channel. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.